everyone, my name is Carrie Lynn and today I'm going to be filming a fall TBR video. So these are all the books that I am hoping to get to this fall. I probably won't get to all of them because I'm not the fastest reader in the world, but these are the ones that I'm hoping to get to this fall season. I've got my pumpkin spice latte that I made at home today, and I have a fall candle going. What more do I need? Okay, so I'm starting off with Kindle Unlimited books. The first one I've already started, but I haven't finished yet, which is The Serpent and Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. It's like a slow burn fantasy romance book with vampires in it. Hi, buddy. Say hi to Carter. This is Carter, my dog. So basically, she's a human and she gets adopted by the vampire king. She gets put into this competition. They have a reward if they win the contest, and so she wants to have the same amount of power as her adopted dad, who's the king of all these vampires, so he's got a lot of power, basically turning her into a vampire, but she's the only human competing, so obviously she's at a disadvantage. So I'm really enjoying the competition aspect of it, like right at 50% right now. So they're like kind of getting into the romance, which is so good. So I'm really loving that book. I honestly don't really know. I honestly don't really know if I'll continue the other two books in the series this fall. I mean, obviously if I enjoy it, I'll continue the series. I don't think they're on Kindle Unlimited. I think it's only the first book. So okay, the second book on Kindle Unlimited that I want to get to is When the Moon Hatched. I've been seeing so much about this book. A lot of my old coworkers used to be obsessed with it, so I've been very excited to get to it, but it's like, I think like 800 pages. I could have just made that up, but I remember it being a really, really thick book, but I downloaded it onto my Kindle to make it feel like it's less than it actually is. Fantasy romance book with like assassins and bounty hunters, and I'm pretty sure there's dragons, which is my favorite thing ever. I love when there's dragons in books. I've seen some reviews for it that say that it's really hard to get into and some scenes are really slow, so I'm kind of intimidated by it and how big it is, but hopefully I get to that this year. The next book I'm really excited about, it's One Dark Window. I know it's a duology, everyone's been reading it, everyone's been obsessed with it. I think it became popular last year, I could be wrong. It's a gothic fantasy, which I don't really read much gothic fantasy. I was watching a video and I think it said that she's got like some sort of monster or something inside of her, which is really interesting. The last one on Kindle that I have downloaded is One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I know that Sarah Caroli was a big fan of this book when it came out, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's like a Romeo-Juliet situation, but with witch families in New York City. So that sounds amazing. So the first book on my physical TBR is also by Olivia Blake, which is The Atlas 6. I've had this one since, I think I got it for Christmas last year and I still haven't picked it up yet. The only thing I really know about this book is that it's about magicians. So there's like 6 kids. There's like a secret society. I think the 6 get included into the secret society. I honestly don't really know much else about this. I know I've heard mixed reviews that some people really didn't like this book. I've had it on my TBR for a while and fall feels like the right time to pick it up. The next book I've had for a very, very long time. I think it was 2020 when this was a big TikTok book, but The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book is so gorgeous, number one. The paperback Barnes & Noble version of it, beautiful. If I didn't have this one already, I literally would have bought it because it's so pretty. This book is about a woman who can live forever but no one remembers her, I believe. So she kind of gets erased in the minds of people that she meets. No one remembers who she is, so she can't really make friends or fall in love because no one remembers who she is the next day. I think that's the general overview of the book. I think it's finally the time to pick this beautiful book up. Okay, the next book I started reading last year, but then put it down because it was very slow for me and I could not figure out why I didn't like it, but I'm determined to finish it this year. That book is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I honestly really enjoyed what I read. It just wasn't what I was in the mood for when I was reading it, I think. I just know that this is like a thrilling secret society book. I really want to get into dark academia because It seems like something I would enjoy, but I haven't dabbled into yet, so I think this is the perfect way to start. And alongside this one, I also want to read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I don't really know much about this book besides the fact that we follow our main character Theo, and he gets in a bad car accident, and I think his mother passes away, but he survives the accident. It also feels, in a silly way, it also feels like something that Rory Gilmore would read. Like, you would see her like on a park bench just reading. This next book I am so extremely excited to read. That is House of Salt and Sorrows. I saw a TikTok about this book a few months ago, and it basically was saying it's like a fantasy retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, like the Barbie 12 Dancing Princesses movie, which was my favorite Barbie movie growing up. Like, I was obsessed with it. So I just know it's like these 12 sisters. I love like any pirate at sea siren type fantasy book, and this, I believe, has that setting in it. Also, there's a blurb on the front by Stephanie Garber, who wrote the Caraval trilogy and the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, which I loved. Caraval, one of my favorite books that I've read this year. If she liked it, that's a good sign. So I'm really hoping that this meets my expectations. So the next book on my fall TBR is Court of the Vampire Queen by Kate Robert. I started reading this book at the beginning of the summer, but it felt very wrong to read this book in the summertime, so I put it down and saved it for the fall. She's half human, half vampire, and her dad kind of sells her off to this other vampire to like be his bride, basically. I don't know much else about this book, but it's just a fantasy romance. I am excited to read it. How many times have I said I'm excited to read it? Probably after every single book. The next book is Rebecca. This is a Netflix movie. I've watched the Netflix movie a few years ago and I really enjoyed it. It's a thriller book where basically the male main character's wife had passed away, and he goes on vacation and meets this other woman and takes her back with him to his big fancy mansion, and she finds out that it's still like everyone's not really over the death of, I think her name is Rebecca. So Rebecca's kind of like haunting this house. That's all I really know about it. I really enjoyed the movie. I started reading this book, and it's obviously a classic, so it's written very detailed, very long paragraphs, and I could not get into it. So hopefully I can sit down, focus, and finish this book. The next one is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is a memoir about Patti Smith's life in the 1960s and 1970s, so I believe she lives in New York City. It basically is just like a poetic description about her life and her relationships and the relationships between artists. So I was just really intrigued by this book. Very different from all of the other fantasy books that I have on my TBR, but I just think that this would be a nice little palette cleanser between all of the fantasy books. The next book on my TBR is very daunting to me because I have been wanting to read these books for a very long time, is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This book is a beautiful Barnes & Noble copy of all 3 books in one. My plan is to read The Hobbit first and then go into these 3. I don't own a copy of The Hobbit though. I really loved the movies growing up, and I think that I would really enjoy this book. I know that there are really good audiobooks of these books out there, so I think that I might have to audiobook it while I'm reading it to really help me understand, because this world is so big and so confusing and there's so many details and I don't want to miss anything. Okay, so that was my fall TBR. I have about 17 books that I'd like to get to within the next 3 months. I don't think I'll read that many because I've only read 30 books in this entire year, but we'll see. I'm hoping to do a few reading vlogs, maybe a 24-hour readathon, to get through all of these books. So look out for those. Those should be coming in the future. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll be putting out more fall videos in the future. So I look forward to seeing you there.